Day 60. Numbers 20-22. In the first month, the whole congregation of Israel entered the wilderness of Zin and stayed in Kadesh. There Miriam died and was buried. Now there was no water for the congregation, so they gathered against Moses and Aaron. The people quarreled with Moses and said, "If only we had perished with our brothers before the Lord. Why have you brought the Lord's assembly into this wilderness for us and our livestock to die here? Why have you led us up out of Egypt to bring us to this wretched place? It is not a place of grain, figs, vines, or pomegranates, and there is no water to drink." Then Moses and Aaron went from the presence of the assembly to the entrance to the tent of meeting. They fell face down, and the glory of the Lord appeared to them. And the Lord said to Moses, "Take the staff and assemble the congregation. You and your brother Aaron are to speak to the rock while they watch, and it will pour out its water. You will bring out water from the rock and provide drink for the congregation and their livestock." So Moses took the staff from the Lord's presence, just as he had been commanded. Then Moses and Aaron gathered the assembly in front of the rock, and Moses said to them, "Listen now, you rebels, must we bring you water out of this rock?" Then Moses raised his hand and struck the rock twice with his staff, so that a great amount of water gushed out, and the congregation and their livestock were able to drink. But the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, "Because you did not trust me to show my holiness in the sight of the Israelites, you will not bring this assembly into the land that I have given them." These were the waters of Meribah, where the Israelites quarreled with the Lord. And he showed his holiness among them. From Kadesh, Moses sent messengers to tell the king of Edom, "This is what your brother Israel says, you know all the hardship that has befallen us, how our fathers went down to Egypt, where we lived many years. The Egyptians mistreated us and our fathers, and when we cried out to the Lord, he heard our voice, sent an angel, and brought us out of Egypt. Now look, we are in Kadesh, a city on the edge of your territory. Please let us pass through your land. We will not cut through any field or vineyard, or drink water from any well. We will stay on the king's highway, we will not turn to the right or to the left until we have passed through your territory." But Edom answered, "You may not travel through our land, or we will come out and confront you with the sword." "We will stay on the main road," the Israelites replied. "And if we or our herds drink your water, we will pay for it. There will be no problem, only let us pass through on foot." But Edom insisted, "You may not pass through." And they came out to confront the Israelites with a large army and a strong hand. So Edom refused to allow Israel to pass through their territory, and Israel turned away from them. After they had set out from Kadesh, the whole congregation of Israel came to Mount Hor. And at Mount Hor, near the border of the land of Edom, the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, "Aaron will be gathered to his people, he will not enter the land that I have given the Israelites, because both of you rebelled against my command at the waters of Meribah. Take Aaron and his son Eleazar and bring them up Mount Hor. Remove Aaron's priestly garments and put them on his son Eleazar. Aaron will be gathered to his people and will die there." So Moses did as the Lord had commanded, and they climbed Mount Hor in the sight of the whole congregation. After Moses had removed Aaron's garments and put them on his son Eleazar, Aaron died there on top of the mountain. Then Moses and Eleazar came down from the mountain. When the whole congregation saw that Aaron had died, the entire house of Israel mourned for him 30 days. When the Canaanite king of Arad, who lived in the Negev, heard that Israel was coming along the road to Atharim, he attacked Israel and captured some prisoners. So Israel made a vow to the Lord, "If you will deliver this people into our hands, we will devote their cities to destruction." And the Lord heard Israel's plea and delivered up the Canaanites. Israel devoted them and their cities to destruction, so they named the place Hormah. Then they set out from Mount Hor along the route to the Red Sea, in order to bypass the land of Edom. But the people grew impatient on the journey and spoke against God and against Moses, "Why have you led us up out of Egypt to die in the wilderness? There is no bread or water, and we detest this wretched food." So the Lord sent venomous snakes among the people, and many of the Israelites were bitten and died. Then the people came to Moses and said, "We have sinned by speaking against the Lord and against you. Intercede with the Lord so he will take the snakes away from us." So Moses interceded for the people. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Make a fiery serpent and mount it on a pole. When anyone who is bitten looks at it, he will live." So Moses made a bronze snake and mounted it on a pole. If anyone who was bitten looked at the bronze snake, he would live. Then the Israelites set out and camped at Abath. They journeyed from Abath and camped at Eabarim in the wilderness opposite Moab to the east. From there they set out and camped in the valley of Zir. From there they moved on and camped on the other side of the Arnon, in the wilderness that extends into the Amorite territory. Now the Arnon is the border between the Moabites and the Amorites. Therefore it is stated in the book of the wars of the Lord, Wahab and Suphah and the wadis of the Arnon, even the slopes of the wadis that extend to the side of Ar and lie along the border of Moab. From there they went on to Beer, the well where the Lord said to Moses, "Gather the people so that I may give them water." Then Israel sang this song, "Spring up, O well, all of you sing to it." The princes dug the well, the nobles of the people hollowed it out with their scepters and with their staffs. From the wilderness the Israelites went on to Mattanah, and from Mattanah to Nahaliel, and from Nahaliel to Bamoth. And from Bamoth to the valley in Moab where the top of Pisgah overlooks the wasteland. Then Israel sent messengers to Sihon king of the Amorites, saying, "Let us pass through your land. We will not cut through any field or vineyard, or drink water from any well. We will stay on the king's highway until we have passed through your territory." But Sihon would not let Israel pass through his territory. Instead, he gathered his whole army and went out to confront Israel in the wilderness. When he came to Hahaz, he fought against Israel. And Israel put him to the sword and took possession of his land, from the Arnon to the Jabbok but only up to the border of the Ammonites, because it was fortified. Israel captured all the cities of the Amorites and occupied them, including Heshbon and all its villages. Heshbon was the city of Sihon king of the Amorites, who had fought against the former king of Moab and taken all his land as far as the Arnon. That is why the poets say, "Come to Heshbon, let it be rebuilt, let the city of Sihon be restored." For a fire went out from Heshbon, a blaze from the city of Sihon. It consumed Ar of Moab, the rulers of Arnon's heights. Woe to you, O Moab! You are destroyed, O people of Chemosh! He gave up his sons as refugees, and his daughters into captivity to Sihon king of the Amorites. But we have overthrown them, Heshbon is destroyed as far as Dibon. We demolished them as far as Napha, which reaches to Medba. So Israel lived in the land of the Amorites. After Moses had sent spies to Jazer, Israel captured its villages and drove out the Amorites who were there. Then they turned and went up the road to Bashan, and Og king of Bashan and his whole army came out to meet them in battle at Edrei. But the Lord said to Moses, "Do not fear him, for I have delivered him into your hand, along with all his people and his land. Do to him as you did to Sihon king of the Amorites, who lived in Heshbon." So they struck down Og, along with his sons and his whole army, until no remnant was left. And they took possession of his land. Then the Israelites traveled on and camped in the plains of Moab near the Jordan, across from Jericho. Now Balak son of Zippor saw all that Israel had done to the Amorites, and Moab was terrified of the people because they were numerous. Indeed, Moab dreaded the Israelites. So the Moabites said to the elders of Midian, "This horde will devour everything around us, as an ox licks up the grass of the field." Since Balak son of Zippor was king of Moab at that time, he sent messengers to Balaam son of Beor at Pethor, which is by the Euphrates in the land of his people. "Behold, a people has come out of Egypt," said Balak. "They cover the face of the land and have settled next to me. So please come now and put a curse on this people, because they are too mighty for me. Perhaps I may be able to defeat them and drive them out of the land, for I know that those you bless are blessed, and those you curse are cursed." The elders of Moab and Midian departed with the fees for divination in hand. They came to Balaam and relayed to him the words of Balak. "Spend the night here," Balaam replied, "and I will give you the answer that the Lord speaks to me." So the princes of Moab stayed with Balaam. Then God came to Balaam and asked, "Who are these men with you?" And Balaam said to God, "Balak son of Zippor, king of Moab, sent me this message, Behold, a people has come out of Egypt, and they cover the face of the land. Now come and put a curse on them for me. Perhaps I may be able to fight against them and drive them away." But God said to Balaam, "Do not go with them. You are not to curse this people, for they are blessed." So Balaam got up the next morning and said to Balak's princes, "Go back to your homeland, because the Lord has refused to let me go with you." And the princes of Moab arose, returned to Balak, and said, "Balaam refused to come with us." Then Balak sent other princes, more numerous and more distinguished than the first messengers. They came to Balaam and said, "This is what Balak son of Zippor says, Please let nothing hinder you from coming to me, for I will honor you richly and do whatever you say. So please come and put a curse on this people for me." But Balaam replied to the servants of Balak, "If Balak were to give me his house full of silver and gold, I could not do anything small or great to go beyond the command of the Lord my God. So now, please stay here overnight as the others did, that I may find out what else the Lord has to tell me." That night God came to Balaam and said, "Since these men have come to summon you, get up and go with them, but you must only do what I tell you." So in the morning Balaam got up, saddled his donkey, and went with the princes of Moab. Then God's anger was kindled because Balaam was going along, and the angel of the Lord stood in the road to oppose him. Balaam was riding his donkey, and his 2 servants were with him. When the donkey saw the angel of the Lord standing in the road with a drawn sword in his hand, she turned off the path and went into a field. So Balaam beat her to return her to the path. Then the angel of the Lord stood in a narrow passage between 2 vineyards, with walls on either side. And the donkey saw the angel of the Lord and pressed herself against the wall, crushing Balaam's foot against it. So he beat her once again. And the angel of the Lord moved on ahead and stood in a narrow place where there was no room to turn to the right or left. When the donkey saw the angel of the Lord, she lay down under Balaam, and he became furious and beat her with his staff. Then the Lord opened the donkey's mouth, and she said to Balaam, "What have I done to you that you have beaten me these 3 times?" Balaam answered the donkey, "You have made a fool of me. If I had a sword in my hand, I would kill you right now." But the donkey said to Balaam, "Am I not the donkey you have ridden all your life until today? Have I ever treated you this way before?" "No," he replied. Then the Lord opened Balaam's eyes, and he saw the angel of the Lord standing in the road with a drawn sword in his hand. And Balaam bowed low and fell face down. The angel of the Lord asked him, "Why have you beaten your donkey these 3 times? Behold, I have come out to oppose you, because your way is perverse before me. The donkey saw me and turned away from me these 3 times. If she had not turned away, then by now I would surely have killed you and let her alive. I have sinned," Balaam said to the angel of the Lord, "for I did not realize that you were standing in the road to confront me. And now, if this is displeasing in your sight, I will go back home." But the angel of the Lord said to Balaam, "Go with the men, but you are to speak only what I tell you." So Balaam went with the princes of Balak. When Balak heard that Balaam was coming, he went out to meet him at the Moabite city on the Arnon border, at the edge of his territory. And he said to Balaam, "Did I not send you an urgent summons? Why did you not come to me? Am I really not able to richly reward you?" "See, I have come to you," Balaam replied, "but can I say just anything? I must speak only the word that God puts in my mouth." So Balaam accompanied Balak, and they came to Kiriath-Huzoth. Balak sacrificed cattle and sheep, and he gave portions to Balaam and the princes who were with him. The next morning, Balak took Balaam and brought him up to Baal. From there he could see the outskirts of the camp of the people. Mark 7 verses 1-13. Then the Pharisees and some of the scribes who had come from Jerusalem gathered around Jesus, and they saw some of his disciples eating with hands that were defiled, that is, unwashed. Now in holding to the tradition of the elders, the Pharisees and all the Jews do not eat until they wash their hands ceremonially. And on returning from the market, they do not eat unless they wash. And there are many other traditions for them to observe, including the washing of cups, pitchers, kettles, and couches for dining. So the Pharisees and scribes questioned Jesus, "Why do your disciples not walk according to the tradition of the elders? Instead, they eat with defiled hands." Jesus answered them, "Isaiah prophesied correctly about you hypocrites, as it is written, 'These people honor me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. They worship me in vain, they teach as doctrine the precepts of men. You have disregarded the commandment of God to keep the tradition of men.'" He went on to say, "You neatly set aside the command of God to maintain your own tradition. For Moses said, 'Honor your father and your mother, and anyone who curses his father or mother must be put to death.' But you say that if a man says to his father or mother, 'Whatever you would have received from me is korban,' that is, a gift devoted to God, he is no longer permitted to do anything for his father or mother. Thus you nullify the word of God by the tradition you have handed down. And you do so in many such matters."